I never thought I'd feel this way in my 20s, like I'm running a race I can't win, stuck on a treadmill where the speed keeps increasing but my legs just can't keep up. Every month, every paycheck, feels like it's swallowed whole by bills that don't stop climbing. Rent goes up again. Groceries cost more than last week. Utilities, gas, even the coffee I used to treat myself to, everything is more expensive. But my income? It's barely budged. Maybe a tiny raise here or there, but nothing close to matching the pace of these rising expenses. It's exhausting, and it wears on me more than I can admit out loud. Most mornings, I wake up feeling like I'm carrying this invisible weight on my chest. I stare at my phone's bank app and try to will the numbers to go up, but they only ever seem to go down or stay stubbornly low. I've gotten so used to budgeting with surgical precision that even a small unexpected cost throws me off balance for weeks. Last month, my laptop suddenly stopped working. It was essential, I use it for work and applying to better jobs. I didn't have the money saved, so I had to borrow from a friend, which makes me feel like I'm losing a little piece of my pride every day. I never imagined my 20s would be like this. Growing up, I had dreams, the usual kind, I guess. Traveling to far-off places, going back to school for something I'm passionate about, maybe starting a small side business. I pictured feeling a little more free, a little more in control of my life. But the reality is different. Most of those dreams feel like luxuries I've had to tuck away, maybe forever. It's not just the money. It's the constant anxiety, the stress that follows me everywhere. I find myself avoiding phone calls or messages from places I owe money to because I don't want to hear the disappointment in their voices, or worse, the threats. Sometimes, when I'm lying in bed late at night, I feel so overwhelmed that tears just come without warning. I try to hold it together during the day, but inside I'm fraying at the edges. What keeps me going is this stubborn hope that someday it'll get better, that the economy will shift, that I'll find a job with a living wage or a career that pays enough to cover the basics and maybe something extra. But even hope feels fragile these days. It's hard to believe in a future when every day feels like surviving. I cope the best I can. I've become a master at stretching every dollar, clipping coupons, cooking every meal at home, avoiding social outings because even a small night out means sacrificing something else important. I've learned to find small joys in cheap or free things, a walk in the park, listening to podcasts, reading books from the library. These moments are brief escapes from the pressure, but they remind me I'm still human, still deserving of peace. Sometimes, I catch myself dreaming about what I'd do if money wasn't the obstacle. I'd go back to school for graphic design. It's something I've loved since I was a kid but never pursued seriously because it felt too expensive. I'd travel, see new places, meet new people. I'd even buy a small apartment of my own, a space that feels like mine instead of renting a cramped room where every noise feels magnified. But these are dreams postponed indefinitely, weighed down by the reality of my paycheck and the rising cost of living. The hardest part is feeling trapped, like the system itself is designed to keep people like me stuck. No matter how hard I work or how careful I am, it feels like the goalposts move farther away every time I get close. I don't want to sound bitter, but it's a frustrating, lonely feeling. Sometimes I envy people who don't have to worry about money so much. I envy their freedom to make choices based on what they want, not just what they can afford. Still, I'm trying to hold on to my dignity and my dreams, however fragile they seem. I talk about this stuff only with a few close friends, because admitting it out loud sometimes feels like admitting defeat. But I'm learning that being honest about it, even just here in this story, helps a little. Maybe it reminds me that I'm not alone, that other people are fighting similar battles. So, I keep waking up, keep budgeting, keep dreaming, even if those dreams are on hold. I remind myself that this is just a chapter, not the whole story. One day, I hope I'll look back on this time and see how it shaped me, gave me strength I didn't know I had. For now, that hope is enough to keep me moving forward, one hard day at a time. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, When do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd feel this way by the time I hit my mid-20s, like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking slowly no matter how much I struggle. It's a strange kind of exhaustion, the kind that gnaws away at your spirit without making a sound. Every day feels like walking a tightrope stretched over a chasm of bills, rent, groceries, and those unexpected expenses that always seem to come knocking when you least need them. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I grew up with hopes, maybe naive, maybe too big, that once I finished school and got a steady job, I'd finally feel some kind of freedom. Freedom to breathe, to explore, to enjoy life. But here I am, juggling a job that pays just enough to cover the essentials and little else. The economic environment feels like this invisible, tightening grip around my neck. Prices go up, and my paycheck, well, it stays stubbornly the same. Sometimes, I wonder if anyone really understands what it's like to live in this constant state of financial pressure. It's not just about numbers on a bank statement. It's about how those numbers dictate every choice I make, and every hope I quietly tuck away. Morning routines have become exercises in prioritization. When I make my coffee at home instead of grabbing one from the cafe down the street, it's not just saving 50 cents, it's preserving the thin margin between a balanced budget and falling into overdraft. Choosing generic brands over name products isn't just about taste, it's about stretching every dollar until it screams. I keep a running mental list of what I can't afford: a night out with friends, a new jacket for the coming winter, even that therapy appointment I know I need but can't justify. The things that once felt like small pleasures have transformed into luxuries, and that sting of missing out piles up quietly in my chest. The rent is a relentless shadow. It's more than just a monthly expense, it's a looming reminder that stability is fragile. I often lie awake thinking about what would happen if the landlord suddenly raised the rent again or if I lost my job tomorrow. The pandemic didn't help, it exposed how thin the safety net really is. I worked odd gigs to get by, but they barely covered anything beyond the bare minimum. The safety I once felt from having a steady income turned out to be a mirage. Social life has taken a hit too. There's a certain loneliness in turning down invitations because you can't afford the price of admission, literally and figuratively. I see friends posting about trips, dinners, new gadgets, and I smile and congratulate them, but inside, I feel a little left behind. Not because I'm jealous, but because the system seems to have built walls around me, walls made of financial insecurity, stress, and exhaustion. It's easy to feel invisible, like I'm just another cog in a machine that's moving too fast and weighing too heavy. Emotionally, it's draining. The weight of money worries clouds every thought. It seeps into relationships, making me guarded and sometimes irritable. I'm afraid to ask for help or admit I'm struggling because it feels like failure. Sometimes, I just want to scream, to let out all the frustration and exhaustion that sits tight inside my chest. But I don't. I keep it inside because the alternative, breaking down, feels scarier. Instead, I cope the best I can: meditation apps, late-night journaling, and those small moments of quiet where I can pretend for a minute that I'm not drowning. There are dreams I've had to push aside, dreams that used to shine brightly but now feel like distant stars. I wanted to travel, to see places beyond my city, to experience the world in ways that money can't always buy but that at least needs some financial breathing room. I imagined going back to school for something I loved, but the thought of taking on more debt terrifies me. Even starting my own business feels like a far-off fantasy because it requires upfront investment I simply don't have. The future, once full of endless possibilities, now feels like a narrow path with hurdles I don't know if I can clear. But despite it all, there's still a flicker of hope. It's quiet, almost fragile, but it's there. I remind myself that this system, with all its flaws and pressures, doesn't define me. I have skills, resilience, and the ability to adapt. Sometimes, I catch myself dreaming again in small ways, saving for a trip one day, enrolling in a class online, or even just imagining what it would feel like to wake up without that constant, heavy weight on my chest. I don't have all the answers. I don't know when this cycle will break or if it ever will. But I keep moving forward, one day at a time, finding strength in the little victories, like making it through another week without falling behind, or finally booking that discounted haircut I've been putting off. I'm learning to be kinder to myself, to acknowledge that surviving in this system is, in itself, a kind of success. So here I am, a young adult caught in the crossfire of an economic storm, speaking openly because maybe, just maybe, someone else out there feels the same way. Maybe sharing this will remind us we're not alone, even when it feels like the world's pressures are too heavy to carry. Because sometimes, just being honest about the struggle is the first step toward finding a way out. That's my story. It's still unfolding, messy and uncertain, but it's real. I never thought I'd be this person, the one who wakes up every morning with a pit in their stomach, already dreading the day ahead because it's not about dreams or plans or even small joys. It's about math. Cold, unforgiving math. How much rent is due, how much is left for food, and whether the paycheck I'll get next week will even cover the essentials. I'm 26, and somehow, every month feels like walking on a tightrope stretched over a canyon. I keep balancing, but the wind is stronger than ever. The cost of living keeps climbing, rent shoots up, groceries get more expensive, and the price of gas makes even a simple trip to the store feel like a luxury. But my income? That's barely inching forward, stuck in place, like I'm running on a treadmill that won't speed up no matter how hard I push. There was a time I believed hard work could change everything. I imagined getting a decent job, saving enough to move out of this cramped apartment, maybe even travel, build something for myself. But now, reality is a lot harsher than those hopeful daydreams. I work a steady job, 9 to 5, 5 days a week, but it barely covers rent and utilities, let alone anything extra. There's always some unexpected bill waiting around the corner, a car repair, a medical copay, or even a necessary replacement for something basic like my phone charger. These small expenses pile up, and suddenly, what little cushion I had is gone. I try to budget carefully, tracking every penny. Sometimes I sit on my couch at night, staring at the numbers on my screen, wondering if I'm missing something, a way to make it all add up. But the truth is, it doesn't matter how careful I am. The expenses outpace the income. It feels like drowning in slow motion. The emotional toll is exhausting. There's a constant undercurrent of anxiety running through my days, the kind that makes me jump at the smallest inconvenience. When a friend asks to hang out at a restaurant, I immediately start calculating if I can afford it without eating ramen for the next week. When I get a call from an unknown number, I brace myself for bad news, usually some bill collector or a reminder I'd forgotten. I keep a tight grip on my social life, not because I don't want to be with people, but because I can't afford to say yes to everything. Sometimes, I feel invisible. Like I'm trapped in a system that was never designed to support people like me, where the rules are stacked against me and the goalposts keep moving. I know people who have better jobs, more education, or family support. I try not to compare, but it's hard not to feel left behind. Especially when I see news stories about the economy growing, stocks rising, and companies making record profits. It's like watching a party from outside a locked door, knowing I'll never get an invite. On my worst days, I wrestle with guilt for not being able to help my family more, guilt for feeling stuck when others seem to be moving forward, guilt for even feeling overwhelmed when so many people have it worse. I try to remind myself that struggling doesn't mean I'm weak. But the weight of this pressure feels endless, and some nights I lie awake wondering if I'll ever break free. Despite it all, I hold on to hope. I still have dreams, though some have been pushed back or reshaped. I wanted to travel, to see new places, meet new people, and learn about the world beyond my city. I wanted to save for a home someday, to create a space that feels truly mine. I wanted to invest in my education, to build skills that could open doors. But those dreams have had to wait, waiting for a time when money isn't a constant worry, when I'm not just surviving but thriving. I cope in small ways. I find comfort in routine, morning coffee brewed at home instead of bought from the cafe, cooking meals instead of eating out, and turning down invitations that cost more than I can spare. I lean on the few friends who understand without judgment, the ones who know the struggles behind my quietness or declined plans. I sometimes write, pouring my thoughts onto pages to release some of the tension, to remind myself I'm not alone in this. Some days, I even dream of rebellion, walking away from it all, rejecting the system that feels so unforgiving. But then reality sinks back in. Rent is due, bills pile up, and I keep walking that tightrope. I know this isn't a unique story. I know there are millions like me, caught in a cycle where expenses climb faster than paychecks, where financial pressure creeps into every corner of life. But that doesn't make it any easier to live through. It doesn't take away the loneliness or the frustration or the quiet desperation. I'm learning to be gentle with myself, to acknowledge that I'm doing the best I can. Some days, that means accepting that I can't do everything. Some days, it means finding small moments of peace amid the struggle. And some days, it means allowing myself to hope that someday, somehow, this tightrope won't feel so thin, and the wind won't be quite so strong. I never thought I'd be here, caught in this endless loop where every month feels like a race against an invisible, ever-growing tide. My name is Jordan, I'm 27, and for years now, I've been navigating a financial squeeze that never quite lets up. It's not just about numbers on a bank statement or the balance of my credit card. It's about the way money controls my day-to-day, how it shapes my choices, and slowly chips away at what I used to believe was possible. I grew up thinking that if I worked hard, got a decent job, and managed my money wisely, I'd be fine. Maybe not rich, but stable enough to enjoy life, to plan trips, maybe buy a small place, start saving for something bigger. I went to college, worked part-time jobs, did internships, all the things people said would set me up for a good future. After graduation, I landed a job that pays okay, but not great. Enough to cover rent, utilities, groceries, and a little bit extra if I'm careful. But the problem is, everything costs more now. Rent creeps up every year, utilities spike, gas prices climb, groceries aren't the same as they used to be. My paycheck doesn't grow fast enough to keep up. I look at my budget, and I'm constantly juggling. Should I pay off a credit card or save a bit for emergencies? Do I skip the gym membership this month? Can I afford to buy a present for my sister's birthday? These decisions don't feel like choices, they feel like restrictions, like the system is holding me down and I'm just trying not to drown. Some days, I wake up anxious, even before I check my phone or look at my calendar. I think about the bills due next week, the money I owe on my student loans, the car that needs maintenance. The weight of it presses down, and sometimes it's hard to breathe. I'm not ashamed of my situation, but I am tired. Tired of working late shifts just to make ends meet. Tired of missing out on things, dinners out with friends, concerts, a vacation. I watch people around me live their lives with a freedom I crave, and I wonder what I'm doing wrong, or if this is just how it is for my generation. It's like being trapped in a box with invisible walls. I can see the world outside, the opportunities, the adventures, the stability, but I can't reach them. Every time I try to push forward, expenses rise faster than my income. Inflation isn't just a headline, it's the empty feeling in my wallet by mid-month. The gig economy jobs that promised flexibility often pay too little or are unstable. The cost of healthcare, even basic insurance, feels like a looming threat. I save what I can, but the margin is razor thin. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I feel a mix of frustration, fear, and hopelessness some days. There's guilt too, guilt for saying no to friends, for not being able to help family members who need me, for postponing dreams. I used to want to travel, see new places, experience different cultures. I wanted to move out of this tiny apartment, maybe get a dog, maybe even start thinking about buying a home someday. Now those dreams seem like distant stars, beautiful, but unreachable. Coping isn't easy. I try to find small joys wherever I can, a walk in the park, cooking a new recipe at home, binge-watching a favorite show. I keep a journal, sometimes venting all the stress and worries on paper because it feels like the only place I can speak freely without judgment. I talk to close friends who understand, though many don't really know how to help. Therapy helps sometimes, but it's another expense that's tough to prioritize. And yet, I remind myself that this is temporary. That this hard chapter won't define my whole life. Despite it all, I hold on to hope. I dream of the day when money isn't a constant weight on my shoulders. When I can afford to say yes to things that bring me happiness instead of just necessities. I hope to find a career path that offers more security and growth. I want to save enough to feel safe, to invest in my future, to give back to my family. I imagine what freedom feels like, the freedom to choose without fear. Living under financial pressure has changed me. It's made me cautious, realistic, but also resilient. I've learned to stretch every dollar, to appreciate small victories, to stay grounded when the world feels overwhelming. I'm still figuring out how to balance survival with dreams. And maybe that's the hardest part, not losing sight of who I am and what I want, even when the system seems designed to keep me boxed in. For now, I take it one day at a time, one paycheck at a time, hoping that someday soon, the tide will turn, and I can finally breathe a little easier. I never thought I'd feel this way at 27. I always imagined that by now, I'd have at least a little breathing room, a stable job, maybe a small apartment I could call my own, a bit of money saved for something beyond just the next month's bills. But the truth is, I feel like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up every single day, and no matter how hard I run, I'm stuck in place, or worse, being pushed backward. The economic pressure isn't just a vague background noise in my life. It's a weight I carry everywhere. From the moment I wake up, I'm already thinking about money. Not in a hopeful, today's a good day kind of way, but in a tight, anxious way. Will I have enough to cover rent this month? Is it time to skip the gym again to save on the membership? Should I order groceries online to avoid impulse buys, or just get what I can at the corner store, even if it's more expensive? These decisions feel endless and exhausting, like the weight of every dollar is magnified tenfold. I work full-time, but the pay barely covers my rent, utilities, food, and a little gas for my car. The rent alone takes almost half of my paycheck, and with the cost of living rising faster than my salary, it's like a trap. I see prices on everything creeping up: groceries, gas, insurance, phone bills, even the coffee I sometimes allow myself as a small treat. Meanwhile, my income stays mostly the same, stagnant at best. The gap between expenses and income feels like a canyon I can't jump over. And every month, no matter how tight I budget or how many little sacrifices I make, I end up dipping into my savings or using a credit card just to keep things afloat. It's terrifying. There's a deep sense of shame tied up in this too, like I'm failing somehow, even though I know it's not about me personally. The system feels rigged, and I'm caught in it. The economy is this huge, impersonal force that's shaping every choice I make, but it feels personal. I'm exhausted from trying to keep up with a world that seems designed to leave people like me behind. Sometimes, when I scroll through social media and see friends posting about their weekend trips or new gadgets, I feel this sharp pang of jealousy mixed with guilt. Why can't I have that? Why am I so stuck? Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. There are days when I feel hopeful, when I manage to save a little, or get through a tough week without extra expenses. But then the next bill arrives or an unexpected expense pops up: a car repair, a medical copay, a broken appliance, and it feels like the ground has been pulled out from under me. I find myself sinking into this pit of anxiety that's hard to climb out of. I catch myself lying awake at night, thinking about worst-case scenarios. What if I lose my job? What if my car breaks down completely? What if I can't pay rent next month? To cope, I've gotten used to cutting corners wherever I can. I rarely eat out anymore. I skip doctor appointments if they're not urgent. I cancel plans with friends because I can't afford it. I try to find free or cheap entertainment, hikes, library books, streaming shows instead of going to the movies. I've become an expert at stretching every dollar, but it comes at a cost. I feel isolated and worn down. I miss the ease of just living without constantly checking my bank balance or wondering how I'll afford the next unexpected expense. Dreams I once had feel distant now, almost like relics from another life. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond my small town. I dreamed of going back to school, finishing a degree that could open doors to a better career. I pictured having a home filled with plants, cozy furniture, and space to breathe. But those dreams feel like luxuries I can't justify anymore. Instead of saving for those things, I'm saving just to keep my head above water, if that. I sometimes catch myself wondering if it's even possible to break out of this cycle. If I work harder, get a second job, or take on side gigs, maybe I could get ahead. But I'm already tired. The thought of working all the time, with no time to rest or enjoy life, makes me feel hollow. What's the point of working so hard if I never get to live? And with the cost of childcare, healthcare, and housing soaring, it feels like the system is designed to keep people like me trapped. Despite all this, there's a small flicker of hope that keeps me going. Maybe one day, the economy will shift. Maybe wages will catch up. Maybe I'll find a better job or an unexpected opportunity that changes everything. I try to remind myself that this struggle doesn't define me, that I'm more than my bank account or my monthly expenses. I still have passions, friendships, and dreams buried beneath the weight of it all. But for now, the financial pressure is a shadow that follows me everywhere, shaping every choice and clouding every hope. It's exhausting and lonely, and sometimes I feel like I'm screaming in silence, trying to tell the world, I'm here. I'm struggling. Please don't forget me. This is my reality, messy and vulnerable, and it's hard to admit. But maybe by saying it out loud, I can start to feel a little less alone. I never thought I'd find myself here, waking up every day feeling like I'm drowning in numbers I can barely keep up with. It's not just the bills or the rent or the groceries. It's the constant, suffocating pressure of knowing that no matter how hard I work, it's never enough. The expenses climb faster than my paycheck, and the gap between the two only seems to widen. Sometimes it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up just as I'm about to collapse. I'm 27 now, living in a city that used to feel full of promise. I moved here after college with big dreams, thought I'd find a decent job, maybe save a little, travel, build something meaningful. But the truth is, those dreams are all packed away in a box in the back of my closet, gathering dust. Every day, I'm reminded of how far they are from reality. My current job pays just enough to cover the essentials, barely. Rent is my biggest expense, and it's a constant source of anxiety. Every month, I log into my bank app with a pit in my stomach, watching the number drop dangerously low as I pay for my cramped, overpriced apartment. I'm on the verge of outgrowing it, but upgrading feels impossible. The rent hikes each year, and my salary hasn't kept pace. It's like the system is rigged against people like me, people who don't have a wealthy family to fall back on or a financial safety net. Groceries are another battleground. I've learned to calculate every meal in my head before I buy anything. There's a rhythm to it, buying bulk on sale, cutting coupons, skipping anything that feels extra. Fresh vegetables and fruits feel like luxuries, and I find myself craving things I can't always afford. Sometimes I justify a small treat, but then guilt washes over me, because I know that money could have gone to something more necessary. Transportation is a daily reminder of financial strain too. I don't own a car, too expensive to maintain, insure, and fill up with gas. So I rely on public transit, which is a mixed blessing. The bus is often crowded and late, and the fare is another chunk of my monthly budget that adds up quickly. Sometimes I walk, even when it's pouring rain or blistering hot, just to save a few dollars. It's exhausting, both physically and mentally. The emotional toll of this ongoing financial pressure is hard to explain. It's like living with a constant low-grade panic in the background. I catch myself holding my breath when I think about next month's bills or my credit card balance. Sleep doesn't come easy. Nights stretch out with worries gnawing at the edges of my mind. What if I lose this job? What if my rent goes up again? What if an unexpected expense pushes me over the edge? I've had to postpone so many dreams. I wanted to travel, to see new places, experience life outside of this city's crowded streets and constant noise. That feels like a luxury I can't justify. I wanted to invest in further education, maybe go back for a master's degree, but the cost is staggering. The thought of taking on more debt terrifies me. Even simple things, like dating or going out with friends, have been scaled back or eliminated. Social life is expensive, and I've learned that if I want to stay afloat, I have to prioritize bills over brunch or movie nights. Sometimes I feel so isolated. It's hard to talk openly about money struggles because there's this stigma around it. People assume that if you're young and working, you should be doing okay. But that's not my reality. I envy those who can splurge without a second thought, who can save or invest or plan for the future without this crushing weight on their shoulders. I cope the best I can. I try to find small moments of joy, like a walk in the park, or a good book borrowed from the library. I keep a journal, pouring out the frustration and hope in equal measure. I remind myself that I'm not alone, even though it often feels that way. Online communities have been a lifeline, people sharing their struggles, advice, and little wins. It helps to know that I'm part of a bigger story, even if the system feels designed to keep us trapped. The feeling of being stuck in this loop, where every expense grows faster than my income, is suffocating. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. I put in as much as I can, but the water just keeps leaking out. I want to break free, to find a way out of this relentless cycle. Sometimes I daydream about a life where money isn't a constant worry, where I can breathe and plan without fear. But even in the midst of this pressure, I hold on to hope. I remind myself that this isn't forever. I'm working on building skills, saving small amounts, and looking for opportunities to improve my situation. I dream of the day when I can look back at this time and say, I made it through. That one day, I'll be able to afford more than just the basics, to live with some ease and freedom. Until then, I keep going. Because what else can I do? I keep trying, keep hoping, and keep believing that there's something better waiting on the other side of this struggle. I never thought I'd feel so stuck, like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up faster than I can keep pace. But here I am, 27 years old, juggling bills and paychecks, wondering if I'll ever really get ahead or if this is just how life is supposed to be now. The truth is, every day feels like a quiet battle, a struggle to make sense of a world that expects so much but seems to give back so little. I work a steady 9-to-5 job in customer service. It's not glamorous, but it pays the rent. Most months. The problem is, the rent never stops climbing. Groceries cost more every time I go shopping. Utilities, transportation, even the occasional night out have become luxuries. And my paycheck? It stays almost the same. A small raise here and there doesn't keep up with the bills, and that gap just widens with every passing month. Sometimes I look at my bank account and feel a sinking weight in my chest. It's like a reminder that no matter how hard I work, I'm barely holding on. When unexpected expenses hit, like a car repair or a medical bill, it feels like the floor drops out from under me. I have to borrow from friends, or shuffle money around, robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's humiliating and exhausting, but there's no other way. There's no cushion, no safety net, just this constant tightrope walk. The thing is, I know I'm not alone. I hear stories from friends and coworkers. Everyone seems to be struggling in some way. But that doesn't make it easier. It just makes me wonder how many of us are quietly suffering, hiding behind polite smiles while drowning under the pressure. Some nights, when the apartment is silent except for the hum of the fridge, I lie awake thinking about all the things I wanted for myself. I dreamed of traveling, of going back to school, maybe starting my own business one day. I wanted to feel stable, to build something lasting. Instead, I'm counting every cent, calculating if I can afford a night out or if I need to skip lunch to save a few bucks. I never imagined I'd have to postpone dreams like that. I always thought hard work would pay off, that if I kept pushing forward, I'd eventually get a break. But the reality is harsher than any expectation I had. The system feels rigged, prices soar while wages stay flat, opportunities feel scarce, and every small victory is undercut by an unexpected expense or a market change I have no control over. Emotionally, it's draining. I try to stay positive, to remind myself that this isn't forever. But some days, the anxiety feels overwhelming. I get restless and frustrated, like I'm trapped in a cage made of numbers and deadlines. I want to scream or cry or just disappear for a while. Instead, I breathe deeply, make lists, and try to keep moving. I talk to close friends, who understand because they're in the same boat. Those moments of honesty are a lifeline. I've learned to cope by focusing on small things: a walk in the park, a good book borrowed from the library, cooking meals at home instead of eating out. I've gotten creative with budgeting, clipping coupons, and hunting for deals. I remind myself that self-care doesn't have to cost money. Sometimes, it's about finding peace in simple moments. But even then, the background noise of financial stress never really goes away. Looking ahead, I'm trying to hold on to hope. Hope that the economy will improve, that wages will rise, that I'll find a job with better pay or more stability. Hope that maybe one day I can stop living paycheck to paycheck and start building a future. I've started saving in tiny amounts, no matter how small, like planting seeds in rocky soil. Maybe they'll grow into something. This ongoing financial pressure has changed me. It's forced me to grow up faster, to be more practical, and to value every dollar more than I ever thought I would. But it's also made me wary and cautious. I don't take joy for granted anymore because I know how fragile it feels when money is tight. If I could say one thing to the world, it would be this: please recognize that behind every paycheck and every budget is a person trying to survive, to thrive, and to find a way forward in a system that often feels designed to keep them down. We're more than numbers on a spreadsheet. We're people with dreams, fears, and hearts that hope for better days. So here I am, honest and vulnerable, sharing my story not because I want pity, but because maybe, somewhere, someone else feels the same. Maybe together, our voices can remind the world that financial pressure isn't just about money, it's about dignity, mental health, and the basic human desire to live with hope and security. Some mornings, I wake up with a tight knot in my chest before I even open my eyes. It's that familiar feeling, the one that's settled into my bones over the past few years, a quiet, persistent pressure that I can't shake off. I lie there for a few moments, staring at the ceiling, wondering how on earth I'm going to make it through another month without falling apart financially. The bills keep piling up, rent keeps going higher, groceries cost more than they used to, and my paycheck, well, it just never seems to catch up. I'm 27, working a full-time job that I used to be proud of, but now feels like a treadmill I can't get off. Every day, I juggle numbers in my head before I even think about what I want to eat or wear. Can I afford that coffee today? How many times can I fill up my gas tank this week? Do I pay the electric bill now or save a bit for groceries? These questions have become the soundtrack of my life, and honestly, it's exhausting. It wasn't always like this. A few years ago, I had dreams, not just vague hopes, but real plans. I wanted to travel, maybe start my own little business someday, buy a car that wasn't falling apart, save for a place of my own. But those dreams have felt like luxuries I can't afford to think about. They feel almost cruel to even imagine because the reality is so stark. Every day, I feel trapped in a system that seems rigged against me. Expenses climb steadily higher, while my income barely inches forward. I remember when my rent went up by $150 a month. That might not sound like much to some, but for me, it was a crushing blow. Suddenly, I had to rework my entire budget, cutting out things that made life bearable, like seeing friends, eating out occasionally, even replacing worn-out clothes. I started working overtime just to cover the difference, which left me exhausted and with less time for myself. It's a vicious cycle. The grocery store trips have become a test of patience and creativity. I scan the shelves, comparing prices, choosing generic brands, and skipping anything that isn't absolutely necessary. Sometimes, I find myself standing in the aisle, staring at a simple vegetable or a small pack of chicken, trying to convince myself that I can't afford it today, even though my stomach grumbles in protest. The shame of picking the cheapest, least fresh options is real. It makes me feel like I'm failing at taking care of myself. Bills are a constant source of anxiety. I check my bank account obsessively, hoping there's enough to cover rent, utilities, phone, and the occasional emergency. There's always that fear, that sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, when a payment is due. Sometimes, I delay paying a bill, convincing myself it's just for a week or two, but the stress never goes away. The late fees pile up, and the cycle repeats. I hate the feeling of owing money, it makes me feel small, powerless. My social life has taken a huge hit too. When your budget is this tight, even small social invitations become complicated decisions. Saying no to friends because you can't afford the cost feels isolating. I watch from the sidelines as others go out, travel, or buy things without a second thought. Sometimes I wonder if they even notice how heavy this financial burden feels, or if it's just invisible to them. I try to cope in small ways. Sometimes I write in my journal, letting the frustration spill out onto paper so it doesn't drown me inside. Other times, I distract myself with movies or music, or a walk around the neighborhood when I can't afford to go anywhere else. I remind myself to breathe and take it one day at a time, even if it feels like the walls are closing in. Therapy has helped me process some of these feelings, but it's also another expense I have to weigh carefully. There's a part of me that's still hopeful. I hold on to the idea that things could change someday. That if I work hard enough, save enough, maybe get a better job or a promotion, I could finally breathe. But hope is complicated, it's a fragile thing when every month you're just barely making it. Some nights, I lie awake thinking about what life might look like if money wasn't always the first and last thing on my mind. Would I be happier? Would I feel free? Would I have the energy to chase those dreams I had, the ones that feel like distant memories now? I dream of stability. A place to call my own, without the fear of rent hikes or eviction notices. A little financial cushion so I don't have to count every penny or skip meals. The chance to invest in myself, in learning new skills or starting that business idea that's been tucked away in the back of my mind. I want to travel, see new places, experience life beyond this daily grind. But for now, those dreams sit quietly in the corner, waiting for a time that seems far off. Sometimes I wonder if I'm alone in this feeling of being stuck. The weight of endless expenses growing faster than my income is a silent epidemic among people my age. It's not just about money, it's about dignity, hope, and the mental toll of never feeling like you're enough. I'm tired, but I'm still here. I'm still trying. And maybe, someday, that will be enough to break free. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I wake up every morning with this knot in my stomach, like a dull weight that's been there for years but never quite goes away. It's not just the usual Monday blues or stress over a deadline. It's the constant, gnawing pressure of money, how there's never quite enough of it, and how everything costs more than it should. I'm 26, working full-time, and yet somehow I feel like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking deeper no matter how hard I try to pull myself out. When I first started my job 2 years ago, I was hopeful. It wasn't my dream career or anything glamorous, but it paid the bills. I told myself this was just a step, a way to build experience, and soon I'd be moving up, earning more, maybe even starting to save. But life had other plans. Rent went up, groceries got pricier, and every little thing, from the gas in my car to the phone bill, crept higher. Meanwhile, my paycheck? It barely budged. If anything, it felt smaller every month, like I was losing ground even as I worked longer hours. I remember the day I sat down and really looked at my budget for the first time in months. I wanted to see where my money was going, figure out what I could cut. The numbers didn't lie, rent was almost half my income, utilities and bills swallowed up the rest, and what was left for food and transport was barely enough. I had to scrimp on groceries, choosing cheaper options that didn't exactly nourish me, but wouldn't bust my budget. I stopped going out with friends, canceled my gym membership, even put off scheduling a dental checkup I knew I needed. It's strange how financial pressure changes you. I've always been a pretty optimistic person, but this endless cycle wears on your spirit. You start measuring happiness not by what you have, but by what you don't lose, like the relief of making rent on time or not overdrawing your bank account. And the fear, that's a constant companion. Fear of a car breaking down, an unexpected medical bill, or worse, losing the job that pays these barely manageable bills. Every decision feels like a trade-off. Do I spend the last bit of money on fixing my old phone or on groceries? Should I pay the internet bill this month or save that money in case my car needs repairs? Sometimes I lie awake at night, going over the numbers in my head, trying to figure out where I can trim just a little more without breaking something important. It's exhausting. And then there's the emotional toll. I used to be so outgoing, always up for new experiences and spontaneous plans. Now, I shrink away from invitations, afraid I'll disappoint friends because I can't afford even a cheap drink out. The loneliness creeps in quietly, but it's no less painful. It feels like everyone else is moving forward, buying homes, traveling, investing in themselves, while I'm stuck juggling bills just to keep the lights on. I'm not proud of it, but sometimes I envy those who don't have to worry. The ones who have the luxury of saving for vacations or buying a decent meal without counting every penny. It feels unfair that no matter how hard I work, I can't seem to get ahead. Like the system is designed to keep me running in place, chasing a moving target that only gets farther away. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I wanted to go back to school, to finally get that degree that could open doors. But tuition is a distant fantasy when rent is already a burden. I dreamed of moving into my own place someday, a small apartment where I could hang pictures on the wall and not worry about noisy neighbors. But with rents rising every year, that seems impossible. Instead, I'm stuck in a tiny room I barely have space to call my own, watching the bills pile up and hoping the next paycheck is enough. Sometimes, I catch myself thinking about what I'd do if money wasn't an issue. I'd invest in my health, better food, a gym membership, therapy to help with the anxiety that has become part of my daily life. I'd travel somewhere new, just to break the cycle of stress and monotony. I'd save enough to feel safe, to build a future rather than just survive day to day. But then reality snaps back, and those dreams feel far away again. Coping has become a survival skill. I cling to small victories, getting through a week without missing a bill payment, finding a discount on groceries, or even just making myself a decent meal instead of fast food. I try to focus on gratitude, reminding myself of the things I do have, a steady job, a roof over my head, people who care about me. But some days it's hard not to feel like I'm losing a part of myself to this financial strain. I've started journaling, writing down these feelings so they don't fester inside me. Sometimes I read articles about people who have been in similar situations and made it through. Those stories give me hope, but they also remind me how hard it is to break out of this cycle. It's like swimming upstream with a current that keeps pulling you back. At night, when everything is quiet, I let myself dream. I dream of a time when I don't have to calculate every expense, when I can think about my future without panic. I dream of waking up and feeling free to make choices based on what I want, not just what I can afford. It feels fragile, that hope, but it's the one thing that keeps me moving forward. The truth is, I'm tired. But I'm not giving up. Maybe someday, things will change. Maybe the economy will shift, or I'll find a better job, or maybe I'll finally have enough saved to take a risk. Until then, I'll keep waking up with that knot in my stomach and face the day. Because despite everything, I want to believe there's a way out of this, one step at a time, one paycheck at a time, one dream held close until it can become real. This is my story, not just about money, but about resilience in the face of a system that feels designed to keep me trapped. It's honest and raw, but also filled with the quiet determination of someone who refuses to be defined by their struggles. I'm still here, still fighting, and maybe that's enough for now. Some days, it feels like I'm just barely keeping my head above water. Like I'm treading in a sea that keeps rising faster than I can swim, and I'm exhausted, and the shore, somewhere safe and solid, seems farther away than ever. I'm 26 now, working 2 part-time jobs, and still, every month ends with me staring at my bank account, trying to figure out how it could possibly be this empty when I did work. I'm trapped in a system that feels designed to keep me running but never catching up. It's not just the math, though that's brutal enough. Expenses keep climbing, like a merciless tide. Rent shot up again last year. Utilities are higher. Groceries feel like a luxury now, especially when I try to buy anything fresh or healthy. The cost of transit went up, which means I'm either paying more to get to work or walking miles I don't have the energy for. And then there's the random, unavoidable stuff. My phone broke last month, so I had to replace it, which was a hit I didn't budget for but couldn't ignore. The plumbing in my apartment started leaking, and fixing that meant borrowing money from a friend, which left me feeling even more fragile. The money I earn barely stretches far enough to cover the basics, and any time I try to save, an emergency pulls the rug right out from under me. Some days, I feel like I'm in a race where the finish line keeps moving. The gap between what I make and what I need widens, even though I'm doing everything I'm told to do, working hard, budgeting carefully, cutting back on nearly everything that isn't essential. I stopped eating out months ago. No more coffees or spontaneous trips to the store for just one thing. I even canceled my streaming services because, honestly, what's the point when I'm stressed all the time? I try to find comfort in small things, reading books from the library, walking in the park, or calling friends, but even those moments feel tinged with anxiety. Because no matter what I do, the bills don't stop coming, and my bank account never seems to get healthier. The pressure isn't just financial, it's emotional, too. There's this constant low hum of stress in my chest. It makes it hard to focus, to sleep, to feel hopeful. I lie awake at night, wondering if I'll ever catch a break, if I'll ever be able to afford a place that feels like home, instead of a cramped apartment I'm scared to lose. I worry about the future, if I'll ever have the chance to pursue my dreams instead of just surviving. I think about the college degree I want to finish, the career I hope to build, the chance to travel, or even just have a quiet weekend without the looming dread of bills. Those dreams feel like luxury now, distant and impractical. It hurts to admit that, because I want to believe in them, but the reality is overwhelming. I try to cope the best I can. I talk to friends, even though I sometimes feel embarrassed or like I'm burdening them. I journal when my thoughts get too loud. I focus on what I can control, meal prepping to avoid spending, setting reminders to pay bills on time so I don't get fees, applying to any job openings that promise a bit more stability or better pay. Sometimes I feel like a hamster on a wheel, running faster but never moving forward. But I keep going, because what else is there? There's also this feeling of invisibility. Like, nobody really sees the day-to-day grind, the mental load of constantly juggling numbers in my head. People might say, just get a better job, but it's never that simple. Job markets are tight, and opportunities that pay a living wage are scarce or require experience I don't have because I can't afford unpaid internships or more schooling. Even when I find something better, the cost of living is always a step ahead, erasing any progress. I'm stuck in a loop where the system seems built to keep me, and people like me, on the edge, never quite breaking free. But even in the dark moments, I hold on to a flicker of hope. Hope that one day, the numbers will add up differently. That I'll find a way to break the cycle, even if it takes time. That I'll get to feel secure, even if it's just for a little while. I dream of a day when I don't have to make tough choices between paying a bill or eating well. A day when I can invest in myself and my future without fear. I want to believe that's possible. And maybe that belief is what keeps me swimming against the tide. For now, though, I'm learning to be patient with myself. To accept that it's okay to struggle and that surviving isn't the same as failing. I remind myself that I'm doing the best I can in a system that wasn't built to make it easy. And sometimes, that's enough to keep going. I don't know when or how the tide will turn, but I'm still here. Still trying. And maybe, someday, that will be enough to reach the shore. It's hard to put into words exactly what it feels like to live under this constant financial pressure, but I'll try to be honest. I'm 26, working full-time, and yet every month feels like a race I'm losing. It's like I'm stuck in quicksand. The more I try to pull myself out, the deeper I sink. I know this is a story so many people share, but that doesn't make it any easier to live. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing that crosses my mind isn't what am I excited about today, but how much money do I need to stretch to make it through the week? Rent alone gobbles up half my paycheck. Utilities, groceries, transportation, all of it adds up faster than I can keep track. And then there's the little things, a broken phone screen, a parking ticket, or a medicine I need but can't quite afford without cutting back somewhere else. These aren't emergencies in a dramatic sense, but they pile on and wear me down. I remember when I was a kid, my parents always told me, work hard, be responsible, and you'll be fine. But somewhere along the way, the math stopped adding up. Prices climbed steadily while my paycheck barely budged. I've tried everything, budgeting apps, cutting subscriptions, cooking at home, biking instead of taking transit, but the expenses just grow like a shadow that follows me everywhere. I feel trapped in a system that's designed to keep people like me running but never really getting ahead. Every raise I get is eaten up by inflation, and every time I try to save, something unexpected shows up to drain my account. I've had to postpone dreams I thought were mine to chase freely, like going back to school, traveling, even moving out of this cramped apartment to a place with a little more light and space. It's frustrating because I know those things aren't luxuries for everyone, but for me, they symbolize hope, growth, and freedom. Now, they're just distant wishes, tucked away behind the daily grind. Emotionally, this constant pressure feels like carrying an invisible weight. Sometimes it hits me in waves, the anxiety, the shame, the exhaustion. I've had sleepless nights lying awake, running through every bill and wondering if there's a way out I haven't seen. I know I'm not alone in this, but the loneliness creeps in anyway. It's embarrassing to admit how hard it is to say no to friends or family when they want to go out, or how I avoid social gatherings because I can't afford to contribute. I hate feeling like my financial situation defines my worth or limits my relationships. To cope, I've developed little rituals. I journal when I feel overwhelmed, it helps me untangle the mess of emotions. I lean on a few close friends who understand without judgment, and I try to remind myself that this isn't a permanent state. I take walks outside, finding some peace in the rhythm of my steps. And sometimes, I let myself dream, even if it feels dangerous, dreaming that one day, I'll have a little breathing room, a savings account that isn't empty, and enough freedom to choose rather than just survive. I'm learning to be kinder to myself, but it's hard not to get bitter. I watch people around me buying homes, taking trips, and starting families, and I wonder what I'm doing wrong. Then I remind myself it's not about blame, it's about a broken system that needs fixing. And while I hope for systemic change, I also hope for personal change, a new job with better pay, a small unexpected windfall, a break that lets me step off this treadmill. Financial pressure feels like a long, slow squeeze, one that can crush your spirit if you let it. But I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping. It's not easy, and it's not glamorous, but it's my story. And maybe, sharing it helps me feel a little less alone, and a little more understood. Because at the end of the day, I want to believe there's more ahead than just surviving. I want to believe there's a future where I can breathe easier, dream bigger, and finally live without counting every penny. That's the truth I carry with me, quietly, every single day. I never thought I'd feel so small in a world that's supposed to be full of opportunity. When I was a kid, I dreamed about a future where I could breathe easy, own a little place of my own, maybe start a family someday, take trips without counting every penny. But now, at 27, the weight of money feels like this invisible chain wrapped tight around my chest, making every breath shallow, every step a struggle. The thing is, it's not like I'm lazy or irresponsible. I work. I hustle. I plan. But it feels like no matter what I do, the system is designed to keep me from getting ahead. Rent eats up half my paycheck, groceries keep getting more expensive, and then there are the utilities, phone bills, student loans, each one a relentless tap on my shoulder demanding attention. I'm stuck in this loop where expenses grow faster than my income, and the gap keeps widening. Some mornings, I wake up with this knot in my stomach, wondering how I'll stretch the remaining $20 in my account until payday. I find myself staring at the fridge, trying to plan meals with whatever's left, or debating whether I can afford the bus fare to work or if I have to walk and save that $2.50. These aren't just little annoyances, they're daily decisions that gnaw at my peace of mind. There's a strange loneliness that comes with this kind of pressure. Friends invite me out, but I have to say no, again, because going out means spending money I can't spare. I don't like being the person who's always busy or tired, but the truth is, sometimes I just want to disappear from the social world so I don't have to explain why I can't join in. I watch their lives unfold on social media, vacations, dinners, new gadgets, and I'm happy for them, but also painfully aware of how far away those things feel from me. I remember a time when I thought getting a steady job would fix everything. But now I see how fragile that hope was. The cost of living keeps rising, rent went up twice in the last year alone, and my salary hasn't changed. Sometimes, it feels like a trap where I'm running faster but staying in the same place, or worse, sliding backward. The emotional toll is heavy. I feel anxiety creeping into my thoughts, especially at night when the house is quiet and the silence echoes the questions I can't answer. Will I ever be able to save enough for an emergency? What if something breaks, my car, my phone, my health? Who will catch me if I fall? It's terrifying how quickly everything can spiral, how one unexpected bill can topple weeks of careful budgeting. To cope, I've learned to live on a shoestring budget. I clip coupons, buy second-hand clothes, cook from scratch, and I'm constantly on the lookout for side gigs, anything to squeeze out a few extra dollars. But that constant scrimping also drains me. There's a persistent fatigue, not just physical, but mental and emotional. I'm exhausted from always having to choose between what I need and what I want, from shrinking my life to fit a budget that doesn't stretch. Yet, despite all this, I still hold on to some dreams. I dream about the day I can finally move out of this cramped apartment, get a stable place that feels like home. I dream about traveling, not just scrolling through pictures online but actually being somewhere new, feeling the sun on my face without a cloud of worry. I dream about taking a course to change my career path, maybe starting something of my own. But those dreams feel like fragile flames, flickering in a storm, easily smothered by the harsh winds of reality. Sometimes, I have to remind myself that I'm not alone. There are millions of people feeling this same pressure, trapped in systems that favor the few over the many. It helps to talk about it, to let the vulnerability out, because pretending everything's fine only makes the weight heavier. I'm learning to ask for help, to lean on friends when I can, even if it's just for a little emotional support. I wish the world understood that financial pressure isn't just about numbers, it's about dignity, about the freedom to live without constant fear and limitation. I want to believe there's a way out, that if I keep pushing, keep trying, one day the chain will loosen, and I'll be able to breathe again. Until then, I keep waking up, keep making those hard choices, because giving up isn't an option, even if it sometimes feels like the easiest one. This story isn't just mine, it's the story of so many of us, quietly carrying the weight, hoping for a break, dreaming of a life where money doesn't dictate our worth or our happiness. And maybe, just maybe, sharing this truth will help us feel a little less trapped and a little more seen. I never thought I'd be writing about money like this, like it's some dark cloud that follows me everywhere, sinking into every part of my day. But here I am, trying to explain how it feels to be stuck in this constant squeeze, where no matter how hard I work, the weight of expenses just crushes me a little more each month. It's exhausting, and sometimes, it feels like there's no way out. I'm 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, money has been this looming presence, like a test I'm failing over and over again. It wasn't always this intense. When I graduated college, I had hope. I had this dream that I'd land a decent job, save some money, maybe move out on my own, and build something steady. But the world I stepped into didn't make it easy. The cost of everything rose faster than my paycheck, and suddenly, those small dreams seemed too far away to reach. Rent is the first thing that hits me every month. I live in a tiny apartment in a city where housing prices keep skyrocketing. The neighborhood is changing, new buildings going up, fancy cafes replacing old mom-and-pop shops. It feels like the city is being built for people with money I don't have. And my rent? It went up twice this year, pushing me into a corner where I have to choose between essentials and keeping a roof over my head. I try to budget like I'm supposed to. I track every dollar, every cent. But the truth is, the numbers don't add up in a way that feels fair. Utilities keep climbing, groceries are more expensive, and my phone bill feels like a luxury I can't really cut out. Every time I think I've got a handle on it, something unexpected shows up, a car repair, a medical bill, or a friend's emergency that I want to help with but can't afford to. It's in these moments I feel the system's grip tighten around me. The bills feel endless, and the income is barely enough to hold them off. Like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up no matter how fast I go. It's not just about money, it's about how this constant struggle steals my peace. Anxiety is a shadow I carry, always lurking in the back of my mind, whispering that I'm not doing enough, that I'm falling behind. Social life is a casualty of this too. I say no to invitations because I can't afford the dinner or the drinks. I cancel plans with friends to save on transit or just to keep my energy for the next workday. It's lonely sometimes, feeling like I'm watching life go on from the sidelines while I'm stuck balancing bills and paychecks. I want to be honest about how this pressure weighs on my mental health. There are nights I lie awake, heart pounding, overwhelmed by the thought of what comes next. What if I lose my job? What if I can't pay rent? What if I get sick? Those fears gnaw at me. Therapy helps, but it's another expense I have to juggle. Sometimes, I cry in the shower, not out of sadness exactly, but frustration that this is my reality, and it's so hard to break free. Despite all this, I haven't given up hope. I still dream, even if those dreams have been shoved to the back of my mind. I used to imagine traveling, moving to a quieter place, maybe starting a family someday. Now those ideas feel like luxuries for someone else's life. I postponed buying a car, saving for a house, even investing in myself through courses or hobbies that might one day open doors. It feels like I'm in survival mode, and all the extra things are out of reach. But deep down, I remind myself that this isn't the whole story. I try to find moments of light, like the small victories when I pay off a bill or save a bit from a paycheck. I lean on the kindness of friends who understand, who don't judge when I have to say no. I find peace in little things, a good book, a walk in the park, a quiet cup of coffee on a weekend morning. These aren't solutions, but they're lifelines. I wish the system made it easier for people like me. I wish wages kept up with the cost of living. I wish that working hard meant I could feel secure instead of constantly worried. I want to believe that one day, this struggle will be behind me, that the treadmill will slow down or maybe even stop, and I can finally breathe without the weight of money dragging me down. For now, I keep going. I keep trying. Because even when it feels like the walls are closing in, I hold on to the hope that my story won't end here, that one day, I'll look back and see this time as a chapter one survived, not the whole book. Until then, I'm just doing my best to live honestly, to acknowledge the struggle without letting it define me, and to dream quietly of a better future. That's where I am right now, caught between survival and hope, living in the tension of financial pressure but still daring to imagine something more. I never thought I'd end up feeling this way, like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking a little deeper every day no matter how hard I try to claw my way out. I'm 26, working full-time, trying to keep my head above water, but the weight of bills and expenses keeps pulling me down. It's not just the numbers on a spreadsheet or the statements in my bank app, it's this constant, gnawing pressure that affects every single choice I make, every corner I cut, every dream I quietly shove to the back of my mind. Growing up, I was always told to be responsible with money, save a bit here, spend wisely there. But I'm living in a world where rent hikes faster than my paychecks, groceries seem to cost more every week, and the idea of emergency savings feels like some cruel joke. I'm lucky to have a stable job, but even that stability feels fragile. There's always this looming worry about layoffs or hours being cut, and honestly, that's exhausting to carry around on top of everything else. Each morning, I wake up and run the numbers in my head before I even get out of bed. Can I afford the bus fare today, or should I walk in the rain? Do I skip the coffee that's become a small comfort, or is that little pick-me-up worth the extra few dollars? These might sound like minor decisions to someone else, but for me, they add up to a daily math puzzle I'm losing. I feel like I'm constantly budgeting my breaths, rationing my time, and making sacrifices I never thought I'd have to. The hardest part is that it's not just about money, it's about the way this financial pressure seeps into my mind, dulling my sense of possibility. I used to dream about traveling, going back to school, or even just having the freedom to say yes to spontaneous plans with friends. Now, I weigh every opportunity against a backdrop of, can I afford this? Should I? Social events have become exercises in restraint. When friends invite me out, I hesitate because I know the cost of a night out will mean tightening the belt on groceries or skipping something else I actually need. There's this invisible wall that separates me from others who don't have to think twice about spending. Sometimes I feel like I'm living in a parallel world where joy is rationed, where enjoyment is an occasional treat instead of a regular part of life. At times, the emotional weight feels unbearable. I try to hide it, put on a brave face, crack jokes, say I'm fine, but inside, there's this knot of anxiety and exhaustion. Nights are the worst because that's when my mind races, listing every unpaid bill, every dollar I wish I had, every dream that now feels out of reach. I lie awake wondering how long this cycle will go on. Will I ever catch up? Will I ever feel secure? Coping isn't easy. I found small pockets of relief in things like journaling or going for long walks, trying to clear my head and remind myself I'm more than my bank balance. Sometimes I lean on friends for emotional support, even if I can't share my financial reality fully. Therapy has helped me untangle some of the shame and fear tied to money struggles, though it's hard to prioritize that expense too. I've learned to be kinder to myself, to acknowledge that surviving in this system is itself a form of strength. The system feels rigged. Expenses rise relentlessly: rent, utilities, healthcare, while wages crawl forward at a snail's pace. It's like running on a treadmill set to speed up every year, and no matter how fast I run, I can't get ahead. There's a bitter frustration in knowing that working harder won't necessarily lead to financial freedom. The safety nets feel flimsy or non-existent, and the rules seem designed for someone else's reality. Sometimes I fantasize about hitting reset, moving somewhere cheaper, switching careers, going back to school full-time if only I could afford it. But those dreams get tangled in the harsh truths of rent contracts, student loans, and monthly bills. I've had to postpone plans I once held dear, saving for my own place, traveling to see family, even simple things like upgrading my laptop for work. Every delay chips away at my sense of hope, but I'm trying to hold on. What keeps me going? Maybe it's a stubborn thread of hope that one day, this pressure will ease. That my work will pay off, that wages will catch up, or that I'll find a new path forward. I remind myself that I'm not alone, millions are feeling the same squeeze, and sometimes, that shared struggle can be a source of solidarity rather than isolation. I want to believe in a future where money doesn't dictate my worth or limit my choices. A future where I can breathe freely, make plans without fear, and invest in myself without guilt. But until then, I navigate this maze of rising costs and stagnant income, trying to find moments of peace in the chaos, small victories in the everyday grind. This isn't just about finances, it's about reclaiming my sense of self and possibility in a world that often feels like it's set up to hold me back. I don't have all the answers, but I'm learning to live honestly with this reality and to keep dreaming, even if those dreams have to wait a little longer. Because giving up on hope, that feels like the one thing I can't afford. I never imagined that financial pressure would become this heavy a shadow over my life. It's like waking up every morning already knowing there's a mountain of bills waiting to be climbed, except the mountain grows taller and steeper each day. I'm 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, I've been chasing this elusive balance between making enough money and keeping my head above water. But the truth is, no matter how hard I work, it feels like the system is designed to keep me stuck, scrambling to catch up while the costs of living race ahead like a freight train I can't board. I work full-time at a small marketing agency, a job I'm thankful to have in this economy, but it pays just enough to cover the basics: rent, utilities, groceries, and the occasional phone bill. The problem is, basics have changed. Rent has skyrocketed in my city. Every lease renewal comes with an increase that makes my stomach twist. Just last year, my rent went up by $150 a month. I don't have the luxury to move somewhere cheaper without sacrificing a longer, more expensive commute or a less safe neighborhood. So I stay, squeezing every penny, skipping meals sometimes, or putting off necessary expenses like dental care or replacing worn-out clothes. The cost of food alone has become a minefield. I used to enjoy cooking meals from scratch, experimenting with recipes, but now my grocery list is a carefully curated set of essentials, no room for splurges or treats. I catch myself calculating the price per calorie on every item I pick up. It feels cold and clinical, like I'm rationing hope. Sometimes I eat less just to save a few dollars. I know it's not healthy, but it's hard to justify extra food when the next bill is looming. Transportation is another constant stressor. I don't own a car, so I rely on public transit, which has become less reliable and more expensive. If I miss a bus or train, I end up paying for an Uber or taxi just to get to work on time. Those small moments add up to big dents in my budget that I never saw coming. What hits me hardest is the way financial pressure affects my mental and emotional well-being. There's a pervasive sense of anxiety that never truly lets up. I lie awake at night thinking about how I'll cover next month's rent, how I'll manage unexpected expenses like a broken phone or a surprise medical bill. I carry this knot in my stomach that tightens every time I hear about inflation or rising interest rates on the news. It's like the world is moving forward at a speed I can't match, no matter how hard I try. This constant worry seeps into every part of my life. Social gatherings feel like a luxury I can't afford. I say no to invitations because going out means spending money I don't have, or spending money and then stressing about it for weeks after. It's isolating. I watch friends plan vacations or weekend trips, and I feel this sharp pang of envy mixed with guilt for feeling that way. I want to celebrate milestones, enjoy life, and feel free, but those things seem reserved for people with financial breathing room, a privilege I don't have. There are days when the frustration boils over into hopelessness. I wonder if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm not trying hard enough. I scroll through social media and see people my age buying homes, traveling, starting businesses, or just living without the constant cloud of money stress. It's hard not to compare and feel like I'm falling behind, like I'm stuck on the sidelines while life speeds past. But I keep going. I've learned to cope in small ways, sometimes by practicing gratitude for what I do have, even if it feels small or fragile. I remind myself that this phase is temporary, even if it feels endless right now. I talk openly with a few close friends about money, which helps lessen the shame and isolation. I've started tracking every dollar I spend, which is tedious but gives me a little control in a world that feels unpredictable. My dreams, though, have been pushed farther into the future. Owning a home, saving for retirement, traveling to places I've always wanted to see, these goals feel like distant stars, shining but out of reach. I've had to postpone going back to school to pursue my passion, shelving plans to start a creative project or side hustle that could one day grow into something more stable. Even relationships feel complicated by money. I don't want to be a burden or bring financial stress into someone else's life. Still, I hold on to hope. I hope for systemic change that makes living costs more manageable and wages fairer. I hope for moments of relief, like a promotion or a side gig that pays well. Mostly, I hope to break free from this cycle, to live a life where money doesn't dictate every decision or shadow every joy. Until then, I take it one day at a time, reminding myself that even in the tightest spaces, there's room to breathe and grow. The economic environment feels like a relentless tide, pulling me under at times. But somewhere deep down, I know I'm not alone, and that maybe, just maybe, better days are possible. For now, I keep moving forward, even if it's slow and exhausting, because giving up isn't an option. It's a strange kind of exhaustion, one that sinks into your bones and stays there, no matter how much sleep you get or how many times you tell yourself tomorrow will be better. I'm 26 now, and for as long as I can remember, money has been this relentless shadow, pressing down on me in a way that feels both constant and impossible to shake off. It's not just about being broke, it's about the creeping, unyielding pressure of knowing that no matter what I do, the bills and costs will always outpace whatever I manage to earn. Every morning starts the same way. I wake up, reach for my phone, and scroll through my bank app with a kind of dread I'm not proud of. There's never much there. Just enough to cover rent, utilities, maybe groceries if I'm careful, and definitely not enough to think about anything beyond just get through today. The economic news only makes it worse, prices going up, rent hikes, gas increases, inflation climbing like an insidious monster eating away at every paycheck. It feels like I'm running on a treadmill that speeds up every day, but I'm not actually getting anywhere. I work a full-time job that I'm grateful to have, but it doesn't pay nearly enough. The company's benefits are minimal, and the raises barely keep up with the rising costs of living. Every time I see a paycheck, a pang of frustration hits me because I know it's already partly spoken for: credit card payments, student loans, phone bills, insurance premiums. I try to budget, really I do, but it feels like a joke. Cut back on coffee, skip meals, avoid social outings, all of it just to patch holes that keep springing leaks. It's hard to admit how much of my life feels like damage control. There's this terrible cycle: expenses climb, I work harder, I stretch every dollar, and then suddenly there's a surprise cost: car repair, medical bill, something breaking at home, and the fragile balance shatters. Then I'm scrambling again, borrowing from friends, putting things on credit, feeling that sinking feeling of debt piling up. It's a trap. And the worst part is knowing that this isn't just a phase or bad luck. It's the system, the economy, the way the world seems designed to squeeze out every bit of hope and leave you gasping for air. I remember dreams I had before all this settled in, the plans I made when I was younger, full of possibility. I wanted to travel, to move somewhere vibrant and new, to take classes, maybe start my own business one day. I thought I'd have the freedom to explore and grow, but instead, those dreams are boxed up in a dusty corner of my mind, locked away behind the walls of financial reality. It's painful to admit how many times I've had to say no, how many invitations I've declined, how many risks I've avoided, all because I can't afford even the smallest luxury. Emotionally, it's like living with a low-grade anxiety that never fully leaves. I catch myself biting my nails or pacing when the rent deadline approaches. Sometimes, at night, I lie awake, heart pounding, running through all the what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. What if I lose my job? What if an emergency happens? What if I never get ahead? It's a gnawing fear that I carry even when I'm trying to be optimistic. The mental weight is exhausting, and I don't always have the energy to explain it to people who don't understand. I've lost friends over it, people who couldn't see past the fact that I couldn't hang out, or that I said no to plans because I had to save every penny. But I cope. Somehow, I find small ways to hold on. I write in a journal, scribbling down frustrations and tiny victories. I listen to music that soothes the nervous edges. Sometimes I allow myself to dream quietly, imagining a day when money won't dictate every choice, when I can breathe without calculating every expense. Those moments, however fleeting, are lifelines. I've also started to lean into community, connecting with others who know this struggle, not just friends, but support groups, online forums, even strangers who share stories of living paycheck to paycheck. It helps to hear, you're not alone. It reminds me that this isn't a personal failure, even if it feels like it. The system is broken, not me. Looking forward feels complicated. On one hand, there's a stubborn hope: I want to believe things can change, that one day I'll find stability, maybe even thrive. On the other hand, I'm painfully aware that this path might stretch on for years, maybe decades. That's the hardest truth to hold, the possibility that what I'm facing now isn't just temporary but a long-term reality. And yet, I have to keep going. Some days, I remind myself that survival is its own kind of courage. That keeping my head above water, paying the rent, keeping food on the table, and showing up at work despite the exhaustion, that's resilience. I cling to those small victories because they matter, even if the world doesn't always see them. This story isn't about self-pity or defeat. It's about the raw truth of what it feels like to be stuck in a system where expenses rise faster than income, where every choice is constrained by financial limits, and where hope flickers but refuses to die. I'm learning to live in that tension, acknowledging the struggle while refusing to give up on the dream of something better. Maybe one day I'll look back and see how far I came. For now, I take it one day at a time, holding on to the fragile threads of hope, even when it feels like they're slipping through my fingers. Because that's all any of us can do, keep going. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.